Our next speaker is John Martin with the Research Data Management Core at UNC-Chapel Hill. His talk is entitled Core Facilities and You.
This is not so much a lightning talk as a public service announcement couched in a lightning talk. I basically have a series of questions. How many of you work at universities or are attached to something at a university? Like a lot of you, right? How many of you have a really straightforward way of billing both internal and external clients? Like really straightforward, like you don't even have to think about it. You can just do the work. Okay, so for the rest of you, there is a model for this, right? And these are core facilities. Is anyone familiar with this idea? The idea of a core facility? No? So most of the time, these are, I don't want to break this, but I'm going to get down. Core facilities are a way to consolidate support and funding for shared services and resources. And so most of the time, this looks like I have a super expensive microscope or something, and I need another one, or I want to expand a resource or service provision using these very high-powered, very expensive machines. The core facility model kind of came out of labs leveraging their resources to actually pay for more resources and then not have to spend the same money over and over again buying these big expensive things. We're seeing this model shift now from that kind of service provision and resource sharing to other things, including infrastructure that's not covered by F&A or indirect cost recovery. So this means anything that basically gets put into grants as a direct budget line that some other department or some unit elsewhere in the university does, those can be consolidated into these core facilities. And so that's what we've done with the Research Data Management Core. None of these costs are coverable. We can't account for them under indirect cost recovery or F&A, facilities and administration monies. And so what we've been able to do is build a model where we're basically charging per grant, per sponsored project for the services that we're rendering for each and every one of those projects. And that's something that we were able to identify as these are costs that go across all of them. We're covering those out of F&A. These are costs that are specific to sponsored projects with specific data needs, and we've rolled that into a fee-based system. It's super complicated, but luckily it's the process of establishing one of these is very well documented, it's regulated, and also there are people at institutions that can help with this. And so my advice is to reach out to find a core facility director on your campus. They're everywhere. You might not know that's what they're doing because they have usually 3 to 4 other jobs as well. And talk to them about this, because the last bullet point here I think is probably the most important. We do a lot of work because we find it interesting or we have a sense of obligation. What I see that doing for people in my group is historically it's turned into things that are like zombies, right? Like we have to keep them going because now they're a crucial part of whatever. But nobody ever thinks about what that costs, how those things are paid for, and this is a way of especially at a time like the one we're in right now, figuring out how to pay for these really deeply important things that we do without having to worry about where the next sort of funding is coming from. And that's not to say that everything is, this is a very, I think in some cases a weird way to think about a public institution, for instance, or a large institution like a university. But increasingly, I mean, what did we see this year? How many people have lost funding this year? I lost $1.2 million this year. So, right, like that's not $1.2 million that someone else is just going to give me. It's now $1.2 million that I need to figure out how to cover. So and that's small, like that's small scale. That's the scale we're looking at. I was just looking at UNC's numbers. We're down $170 million from the last fiscal year for incoming monies for fiscal year 25. That's I mean, that's an alarming number, and that's a small number when we look at other universities that have had larger cuts. So it's time to think differently. This is probably going to be a more common model going forward than it would have been in other circumstances. But the kind of work that we do, the services that we render, the resources that we're actually holding are valuable, and this is also a way of expressing that value back to the community that uses them. So that's my public service announcement. Stop doing work for free. Don't do it forever. Get paid. And there's a way to do it. Talk to your core directors.
All right.